Namaste, Devya, Sadhno, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. With me, like always, is my wonderful co-host, Mr. Parth. And today we have someone really special on our podcast. We have Geetu ma'am, all the way from Bombay. She's a prolific artist. She has a career which has spanned over 35 years in acoustic contemporary folk. She's released over 3 albums, and she has a really diverse background in terms of art. She's also ran an art gallery, very esteemed art gallery. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more to Geetu ma'am. How's it going? Good evening, Geetu ma'am. How's it going? How's everything in Bombay?
Very good. Well, the corona is still going strong. Um, but yes, all things considered,
Right.
doing good. Yes.
Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, what I was even talking to Padbhai is that how can we, like, the questions that we want to ask you today, should we ask them to you in a way that how you started in your career chronologically, or should we ask them to you in a non-linear way? Because I think that both could make for interesting answers from you. So, you tell me what would be better suited to you, whether we ask you.
That's your job. My job is to answer. So whatever
Right,
you
right. No, absolutely.
whatever works for you. I'm good with whatever you decide. I'm
Perfect.
fine.
So I'd like to go for a non-linear sort of thing because I think
Totally.
a lot of interesting things that we got to know when we read whatever little we happen to read about you. So I want to ask you about acoustic contemporary folk. That's something that's a really interesting genre. It sounds also really I don't know, like very fusion. I don't know if I'm getting the gist of it right. So how did you venture into acoustic contemporary folk? Was there anybody that you looked up to? Was there any kind of songs that you heard or any artist that you looked up to that sort of gravitated you towards choosing acoustic contemporary folk as your mode of channelizing?
Okay, so here's the thing. I think a lot of things happened organically, as it does for most people. You kind of go through different pathways and then you find something that works for you. It kind of started with, excuse me, it started with me learning how to play the guitar to start with. So I
Right.
started playing the guitar, and then as I was playing the guitar, I wanted to sing. And my teacher, I think, may have taught me a lot of songs that lent itself to guitar playing.
Right.
And as the years went by, and as I kept performing, a lot of people would say, "Oh, she's like Joan Baez," and even more so back in the day because I had shorter hair and a little more black hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there was that kind of guitar playing, short hair. So I guess there was this connection, and for me, at first I used to actually resent the connection because, of course, everyone wants to be who they are, and they all want
True.
to be unique and
Absolutely.
everything. But
Absolutely.
the point is that we all learn something from various places, and
True.
today after having attended a concert of Joan Baez's, I completely respect the fact that I am
Influenced by her.
uh, yeah, compared to her,
Right.
and it's fabulous. So but for me, as far as the genre is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
I realized after trying out various things that I like to tell stories essentially.
Right.
And so when I like to tell stories, I think so for me it's the guitar, which to me feels like an extension of my body, and then I'm telling a story. So the story
Right.
is pretty much like any song. So it's really what you're giving emphasis to. So if you're, say, a rock guitarist, you will obviously your guitar playing is far more important to you. Hip hop, it's the poetry and the kind of angst that you're kind of expressing. For
True.
me, it's
True.
about stories. So I think folk therefore became the automatically the chosen genre because of that.
Correct. Correct.
And when I say
Wonderful.
contemporary, I think for me it was just contemporary being of, if the literal translation, being of this time. So for me, I am someone who has lived in Bombay all my life. I am Indian. I have learned Indian classical music. I have absorbed that. I have absorbed things from the choir. I have listened to a little bit of Western classical, not too much. So contemporary for me is what I have absorbed in my time, and of course jazz. So I think there is shades of all of that which willy-nilly come into what you're performing.
True.
Right.
True. That's wonderful.
I mean, I have a follow-up question to that. So I have we gave you this form to fill right before, before doing this. We had a Google form in which we asked which are your favorite artists, and I was actually very happy that you had mentioned uh, so many artists from different uh, genres of music, right? You mentioned.
I don't even remember what I mentioned.
No, so I have it right, right. I have it open right in front of me. So you have
Okay.
mentioned. I mean, I just name a few. I mean, you have mentioned Leonard Cohen. You have mentioned Sting.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
mentioned. Then you have mentioned MS Subbulakshmi. You have mentioned Kishori Amongar, who are all totally, completely different
Yeah.
genres of music.
Yeah.
And I mean, my follow-up question to what you were talking about was, did you like, how did you get on to what you are doing right now? Because did you like try different forms of music, or was it like this is what it is going to be?
I actually did try. I did
Mhm.
try. So I have to confess, I feel today a little sad that I tried because I started off with this. But then when I started performing, then somebody said, "अरे यार jazz गाना चाहिए तो थोड़ा jazz में इधर हाथ डाला." फिर किसी ने बोला Bollywood गाना चाहिए तो उधर हाथ डाला. तो सब जगह हाथ डाल डाल के I realized that, and for me, I was younger, of course, and I just felt that maybe that is better. Maybe
Right.
jazz is
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
Maybe
Right.
classical is better. And
Correct.
so I think I got caught up in that loop for a while, trying to better myself. So I was trying to learn everything. So I learned everything, but somehow I found after that whole journey, I came back to this because this was home to me.
Right.
Even
Right.
now, actually, the kind of music that I perform, in all honesty, I don't listen to that kind of music. I
Mhm.
listen to all kinds of music
Mhm.
except the kind of music that I perform.
Mhm.
That
Okay.
then becomes my own little space that I create for myself to put out there. I don't know, it's a funny thing, but that's how it is.
No, I think I can understand where you're coming from because I've seen a lot of people who tend to do that because you become too derivative when you're just indulging in something which you are constantly
Totally.
using as a mode of channelizing yourself. And like you said, that storytelling is such an essential subtext to what you're trying to do. So what I
Absolutely.
want to but what I really found fascinating is that because I feel that sometimes you need to explore other things to realize what you really resonate with. And I'm sure that after trying all these other music genres like you said jazz and Bollywood, I'm sure that that might have really made you understand that this is my belonging. So was it like that for you, where you felt that I belong better to acoustic folk?
Absolutely. I think for me, after doing all of that, and for a long time, for several years, I had a manager, and she would
Right.
try and convince me, A, not to wear saris. And she was coming from an amazing space because one
Right.
had to go out there and look cool.
Right.
And the other thing, she tried to convince me to get rid of my guitar so that I could focus on my singing more. Also, coming from a damn good space,
Right.
I value that input because I know that when I sing without a guitar, there is a certain freedom to it. All that I value.
Absolutely.
The point is that I realized that, like I was saying to you earlier, the guitar to me is an extension of who I am.
Hmm.
And so for the last 1 year, 8 months, I've been suffering from uh, this repetitive motion syndrome. So I've had to give up
Okay.
playing the guitar. And that has been
Right.
completely heartbreaking. But I did make good use of that time. I will tell you about that by and by. But
Sure.
when about 3 weeks ago, I started playing again. And the first song
Oh
that I
wow.
played and I sang, I was like crying because to me, it felt like I had come home. So it's just it's really, I think coming home is the best way to describe it.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's such a beautiful story. But I also, I mean, while researching about you, we got to know that you also had a background in classical music, which is also really interesting. So has that
Sorry,
been like
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
am I audible now? I'm while researching you, we got to know that you also have a background in classical music. So has that also, if I'm not wrong, is that Hindustani classical music or is that Western classical music that you're
Yeah,
referring to?
Hindustani classical. I studied with Neela Bhagwat,
Oh,
but yeah, but in all honesty, I think I sucked at it. But I think what it taught me
right.
was just how to project the voice, the structure of the voice, how to use it. But having said that, I sang with a choir also, and I studied with someone who I did voice training with someone who was the head of the jazz department at Berkeley School of Music,
Oh,
and I
okay.
have studied classical, Western classical singer who kind of used that. So I've studied voice in various different genres,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think it's just come together in its own way, in its own fashion, and a
Right.
lot of. As we have this conversation, I'm kind of going back to my roots also in some ways, things I was taught as a child. So it all kind of comes together that way.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but if you ask me to sing an Indian classical song, no.
No, I can relate to you because I've also learned for a brief period of time. Also being a part of the choir, I was a part of a convent school, St. Mary's out here in Pune. So for
There you
2 years, I was a
Yeah.
part of the choir. So yeah, I mean that. But yeah, I'm sure. But that's great. That's great that you were so modest about it because a lot of people. But yeah, that's great. That's great. So tell us about the fine art company, an art gallery that you were running for a very long time. How did that come to be? And that is something which is and by the asking you is because it falls under the umbrella of art, and I feel that how people look at art in general really reflects on how they look at it, even in minute aspects. So tell us about that. How did you happen to do that in your life post the fine art company?
Okay, so I studied interior design as a young student. I went to the Geetu School of Arts. So a lot of my friends were artists.
Right,
And so I got married young, had three children young. So by the time I was 28, I had three children.
right.
And in my early 30s, I said, okay, now it's time to get down to doing some work. And a lot of my friends were artists. And so, they would encourage me to start an art gallery. And I said, oh, no, no, no. How can I make money off my artist friends?
Right.
Not realizing that it was a lot of hard work and I earned every penny I made. So, so I kind of organically got into it. My ex-husband at the time, he was putting up a hotel. If you've been to Bombay, you've seen the JW Marriott
Absolutely.
at Juhu.
Absolutely. Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
so I kind of organically got drawn into the art program for that hotel,
Right.
and that led to my starting an art gallery, and so that was 17 wonderful years. I think it was 17 years of fabulous time running the art gallery. Made lots of friends, visited a lot of studios, did a lot of hotel projects where I went in and installed the art accessories. And because I had a background in interior design, um, I was good with soft furnishings and accessories. All of it was totally fun. I enjoyed every moment of that time. However, somewhere my heart was always in the music. And I think, honestly, um, I think sometimes even I think that I probably was better at that than I'm at the music. But I
Oh, is
love the
that
music more. Yeah.
okay?
I mean,
Right.
that just came to me. I didn't have to work very hard at it. It
Right.
was just something that I was just naturally good at,
Right.
came very naturally to me. The music I've had to really work hard at, and but somehow that was still what I always loved more. So through the gallery years, I had just made myself this one promise that that no matter what, I will continue to practice for 1 hour every single day, no matter what.
Right.
And so that's something I kept up. And then as life went by and when opportunity presented itself and my mind was open to it, I jumped into the music.
That's wonderful.
So
That's wonderful.
if you want to know more about the art business, you have to ask me specific questions.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, sure, but that's great. That's great. That I mean, I didn't know that it was a lot more than I perceived it to be. So that's wonderful. That the fact that you were still at it in terms of music and you did that, and I mean, yeah, I can sort of understand because I think that if you do something for a longer period of time, it sort of automates itself, like in terms of how you do it. So, like you said, that you felt that it was a little more effortless as opposed to music for you. So, what you also mentioned is that you used to practice for an hour a day. So, what was that practice like? Were you like jamming on the guitar? Were you doing vocal lessons, or was it a mix of all of those things, or learning new forms? What was it like when you were practicing all this?
It really depended on what was going on at the time.
Right,
So I was very fortunate. I was married into a privileged family, so I had
right,
the opportunity to have a room, which was my music room from
right,
pretty much early in my married life. So I've always had a music room.
Okay.
So whether I used it or I didn't, that room was always there. So sometimes
right,
it was to practice the guitar, sometimes it was to sing. So my children, like when my eldest daughter went away to college for the first time, and I remember her saying, she's saying, "Mom, I miss coming home and hearing you practice."
right,
So she'd come home and hear me playing on the guitar, singing something. So yeah, it could have been many things, anything. I've had so many teachers, so my list of teachers is they're all shining stars in their own right.
right,
And I've learned something incredible from each one of them. So Bismarck was my teacher, D Wood was my teacher, is still my teacher, and there's Sanjay Devecha, there's Ashley Queenie. So that's as far as the guitar goes. I hope I haven't left anyone out. And then the voice also, I had so many different teachers. So every time I felt that there was something, I was stagnating, and I'm a learning junkie. So, the minute I feel like, okay, don't know how to do this, then I must learn it. So like recently I did a Sanskrit course, so I will, yeah, so I'm a learning junkie. So yeah.
Right. That's great. That's great. I mean, I feel that it is such an important aspect of any person's growth. Artist is, I think that being an artist is secondary. I feel that learning is such an important aspect. So,
Right.
what do you like the fact that you've had a lot of teachers? What has been the most sort of meticulous experience, or what has been the most severe experience as a teacher? Because I know that music teachers can sometimes be very particular and very strict about how they look at things. So I mean, initially, was it like, initial years where you started? Because like I think that the guru shishya relationship is fading away. Sort of earlier, it used to be very because I've learned classical music, and there was a certain decorum to it. Even if I was going in a colonial society with like buildings and proper, but there was still that once you would enter the room, there would be that sort of hierarchy or that decorum. So I mean, I'm sure that it might be a little different because I was learning Hindustani and yours was a little more Western in terms of what you were doing. So do you feel that I mean, with all the experience that you had learning from different teachers, what has been the most severe and experience for you, and how has it impacted you in your approach in long term?
I think first and foremost, I cannot handle a rigid persona. I
Okay,
am
okay,
not.
got
So that's for me. It's so I did go to one person who was rigid, and
right.
it didn't last for very long, that relationship, because for me, uh, I can respect you, and I will respect you for what you have done, for who you are, but I cannot respect you just because you are so and so, or you are younger, or you are older. For me, respect is mutual, and so for me, for example, talking about the Guru Shishya Parampara. So I have a yoga teacher, and I was brought up not to touch anyone's feet. So that was not a part of our culture because my grandparents were from the Radha Swami family, and there girls don't touch anyone's feet.
Right.
Right.
So when I first started learning Iyengar yoga, I used to see everyone around me touching feet, and I would say, "ये थोड़ा अजीब लग रहा है." But I grew to respect my teacher, who never demanded it of me.
Mhm.
He just taught me. He never demanded it of me. I grew to respect him so much that before I knew it, in a couple of years, I was touching his feet and I didn't even think about it.
Wow.
You know? So he was just worthy of it. And I think touching the feet is a fabulous gesture,
Mhm.
but it has to be done um,
For the right reasons, I think. Yeah.
with Shraddha. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, with Shraddha is the right word for it.
Right.
So yeah, so I cannot just go and touch anyone's feet and say, "Haan, tu mere guru." I can't do that. So that's as far as that is concerned. But in terms of teachers, I have been very, very fortunate. And Neela is extremely progressive. And so she has been like a rock in my life, as has D Wood. And so these people are not just teachers, they are also friends.
Okay.
Um,
That's wonderful. Right.
yeah, so over time, I mean, like, so D would always say, he tells everyone now, he says it started off with her being very scared of me, and
Mhm.
now I'm scared of her. So yeah, so
Right.
our relationship has switched to that, because what are you doing? This is not the way to do things. So yeah, so so there's this amazing friendship that has developed with a lot of my teachers.
Right.
So yeah, I think teachers are very special human beings, and they give so much, and a good teacher is just if you have a good teacher, you are very, very blessed. So that's why very often people ask me, will you teach? I said no, it just takes so much more to be a good teacher,
True.
and you have to be willing to give off yourself.
Absolutely. That's such a
Yeah. So I
true,
have
true,
only
true, true. I think
gratitude
it's a
for
different ball game altogether.
yeah.
Right, right, right. That's great. That's great. But also something that I want to ask you is, do you think that, I mean, I completely get it that the hierarchy in terms of like a teacher and a student is always different, and everybody, like, the eternal saying is like, you're always a student, and the fact that I feel that that sort of resonates with you because you say that you're a learning junkie and you always want to learn, which is tremendous. So what I want to also ask you is that, would you be, I don't know the age of the gentlemen or the people who taught you, but are you don't look at age as a barrier, right? Like if there's someone who's younger to you, you'd still be open to learning to them.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
right, right, right. That's great. That's great. That's great. Because I also what I felt is when you spoke about the instance of you wanting to willfully touch the feet of your teacher, the teacher who taught you, I felt that sort of resonated with the respect is commanded, not demanded thing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right, right. That's great. So
One of my yoga teachers is as young as my daughter. He was my daughter's classmate. And yeah, I would touch his feet. He just laughs when I try to do that, so I don't try it.
right.
But I have no qualms about it,
Right.
So, I mean, what I was thinking about when I read your profile and when we tried to research on you, that you released your first album called Dancing Free in 1993. That's like I was 4 years old at that point of time, and so it's that long back, right? And
Yes.
now, yeah, and then you release your second one in 2010, then 2016, and now you are also compiling another one, which will be out soon, I presume. So, I mean, what I really wanted to ask about here was that there has been a lot of change in the sense how music was perceived as well, and as well as how it was recorded, how it was published. Everything has changed. So, I mean,
Everything.
tell us about it more, because from my point of view, all I have seen is there were good artists back then, there are good artists right now as well, but what has been the change? What were the things that were good at that point of time? What are good now? I mean, from your point of view.
Right.
So back in '93, when I recorded it, there is this gentleman Dinsha Sanjana and his wife. She was then his wife Sandhya. They did the album for me, and they were the top, jazz stars of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, a lot has changed, and Dinsha moved to the US, and Sandhya moved to Amsterdam, so on and so forth. But very talented musicians. Louis is also from back in the day, Louis Banks.
Right,
and so
right.
they all kind of came from that time. Recording was definitely a more expensive process. I can't say I was a very good, I think I've been a decent songwriter most of my life, because again, like I said, it's about my stories that I tell. So that has been a decent thing. As a singer, I needed a lot of work. However, I think we all have to start somewhere, so it all kind of started. And for me personally, it was while I made that album, and we can talk about it today, and it was reproduced in the form of cassettes. It must have sold 2,000 cassettes at best at Rhythm House, because it was an English pop album, which never sold in those days. So in those days, Alisha Chinay was making music, and so was Shweta, I think, Shweta Shetty, and there must have been a couple of others who I can't remember offhand like that. And they were all doing Hindi pop.
Yeah.
So Hindi pop did well. So English pop was unheard of. So I did an English pop album. Out of the 2,000, I think 1,999 must have been bought by friends. And there must have been one sold or something. I don't know. So yeah, so that was as well as it did. And made a music video, which in fact I recently showed to someone. And it was interesting to see, how the styling was back in the day, and how videos were made. So it was very, everything cost a lot more. So from then to now, that cost equation has gone down. So and I'm talking about from my personal experience, and I'm sure it connects to everyone at some level. So then in 2010, when I made the album, again, it cost me a certain amount. I was still of the opinion I could make money, and then realized very quickly that I've spent so much on the album, I cannot make that kind of money unless I'm performing like, say, Swaratma, which is the band that does 364 tours in the year. There's one band I heard, that Swaratmika, or which one, I forget the name.
It might be Swaratma.
Swaratma, no? So yeah, so I think they perform every day of the year. So unless I perform like that, there's no way I'm going to make that kind of money. So I said, okay, now what to do? So 2016, got in a electronic producer, went into a smaller studio, spent less, still didn't make money. Then I said, okay, this is not working. So I sat down and I learned how to use Ableton. I failed miserably the first time I signed on for a Coursera course. Kuch nahi gaya andar. Second time, kuch nahi gaya andar. Third time, I said, I just have to crack this. And I learned how to make my own music. So now my production costs are down to just the cost of Ableton. And I'm in a very happy space. I can make the kind of music I want. And once in a while, I depend on friends who will come in for peanuts and help me out. And I'm not concerned with the numbers. And at this point, and honestly, when I got into the music, I did feel like I gave up a lucrative art business to get into the music business. That's dumb, right? So, but I kind of did it in such a way that I said that, okay, I will have to cut back on my lifestyle. Am I willing to pay the price? So I set up my life in such a way that I could do it. So that, having said that, everyone likes to make a little bit more money. So then I said, chalo, Bollywood bhi ga ke dekhenge. Nahi hua. Then I said, chhoro ye sab. Now you do sing for your heart, sing for yourself. And that's where I'm at. So I make my own music. I sing for myself. Whoever likes it, great, more power to them. More good vibes to them, and so be it. So that's where I'm at.
Mindset. That's a very healthy mindset because there's no entitlement. And I think it's as we are moving forward with all the automation and technology coming in place, it's better that people are self-sufficient and multifaceted. But what's really interesting is that you're using Ableton because that's such a modern mode of producing music. So that's great because a lot of people they're resentful to the latest technology and latest advancements in the business, and the fact that you're doing this is wonderful. So what I also want to ask you is that by researching, we got to know that you had a band, and which I don't know whether it's functional now. I suppose it's not. So
no, because I kind of went into research mode, and so I kind of
right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So what I want to ask you is that I think at that time you were pursuing two parallel careers, as to one with a band and one of your own. So tell us about that, and what was the span, what was the duration of that experience that you had of pursuing a career of your own and with the band as well? How did they help each other? How did they sort of...
No, so working with the band started, so basically the story is that I have a tradition that I gift myself something on my birthday every year. And because I think I know best what I want. So I said I must gift it to myself. So one of the things that I wanted to gift myself was a concert. And that's how I got back into the music. I mean, I got into the music in 2010. So around then or a year before that, I turned 50 or something. And I said, chalo, is saal ye concert karke rahenge. So put a band together, got a choir, did a fabulous concert. What happened with the band was that I think I learned a lot from each band member. So we spent a lot of time rehearsing. There was a lot of learning that happened, which cannot happen in isolation. Yes, you can listen to a lot of music, but just keeping time, switching on the go, just so many things. I mean, you guys must know about it. So all those things happened learning with the band. So that was an incredible experience. The only reason I sometimes played alone was because sponsors or people who were inviting you to sing didn't want to pay the kind of money a band needs. And so you have to go solo, and then you take a backing track and you go solo and do things like that. So it was just a practical this thing. And even today, if I have to go back to a band situation, which I am seriously thinking about sometime in the future when things get back to normal, I would go back to the same band, because that sound that I had with them is a sound I'm not only comfortable with, I enjoy, is my sound, is something they understand, it's something I understand. So there's a huge synergy there.
That's wonderful. So it's great that I mean, there's still that connect in terms of musicality and with also the band members. And
absolutely.
Also, it's great that I get them. I also completely agree with the fact that collaboration actually teaches you a lot. I mean, if you're doing it in the healthy way, collaboration can actually really teach you a lot. So,
yeah.
Have you collaborated with musicians in your solo career, like as in doing like a feature with somebody or like collaborating?
Yeah, I have. So when I was learning Ableton, there was this guy who I connected with through my course. And so he helped program the percussion on one or two tracks for me. So like that, there have been Cristobal. I don't know how to say his name properly. He's South American. But yeah, so I collaborated with him. Then there's a flautist in, Poona, who I played with. So I have played
What's
with
the name?
various.
What's the name?
Don't put me in a fix right now.
No, no.
All the names. If
Because
he's watching this, he'll kill me. He'll say, "How do you not remember my name?" So, I have collaborated with a fair amount of people, and yeah, Vikram.
Okay. Maybe
So,
I don't know.
yeah.
So yeah, that's great. That's great. So what I want to even ask you is, like you said that you said that you came back to music in 2010 and once you wanted to do a concert and formed a band. So what was the duration that you didn't pursue music? I'm sure that with other endeavors and other things that you had happening in your life, how long was that period that you didn't actively pursue music? Well, you said you were practicing and all of that.
Oh, very long time. So
Right.
I would. So since I was in my mid 30s, maybe late 30s, I can't remember, I would go out, do one concert, get yelled at by the family for going out there and trying to be a crooner and a musician or a cabaret artist or something or the others. Everyone had a different version for it. And then I would come back and hide in the house. And then again, after 6 months, I would work up the courage, go out and sit in Prithvi and sing somewhere. And again, somebody would find out. And again, somebody would get angry. And again, I would hide in the house. So this went on. For several years. And then I really started performing when I was 50.
Wow. Okay. So what
Yes.
is, like you said, I'm sure that there's a lot more to that if you want to divulge on it. Like you said that you wanted to give yourself like a concert and get back to things. What was like the instigating or what was the initiating factor for you? Like what was it that all of a sudden hit you or like you felt that I need to get back to music the way I used to previously?
So there are two things. I've read the two things happened. At some point in my life, I had read the book, the Tibetan book of the living and the dead. And what I took away from it was that we are all afraid of dying, and because we haven't lived enough. We haven't lived completely. We haven't lived fully, so we are afraid of dying. So that was always in my mind. Then my circumstances changed. I became single again. I went on a sabbatical and I said, okay, I gave up the art business, and I said, now I need to reinvent my life and I need to figure out what I want to do. So for 1 year, I did nothing. I was just kind of thinking about things. And then I just jumped right back into both. When I couldn't make a decision, I said, I'm going to do both and c'est la vie. And so I went back to the art business and I started performing. And then when I was performing, so when I worked towards this concert, and I was talking to Prasad, who is occasionally my producer, guitarist friend, and bandmate. And I remember telling him, I said, Prasad, yeah, I'm going to give this a try for 1 year. Kuch hua to theek hai, nahi to I'm going back into my hole. So he said, yeah, that's not a bad idea. And so, because as we were rehearsing for this concert, I kept pulling out songs that I had written over the years. And I said, chalo, let's put this to music. And so all of that kept happening. And before we knew it, we had enough material for a full album. So, yeah, so he kept composing, I kept putting the music, we kept rehearsing, and, so it just kept falling into place. And so we produced the album, and then there was no turning back. Then in 2014, now I had done I kind of asked my daughters, I said, are any of you interested in taking on the art business? They said, nah, it's not for us. So I said, okay, goodbye art business. I am going to now follow my own stream, which is the music. And so I quit the art business in 2014, and that's it.
Right. That's wonderful. So, I mean, how has it been like? You said that you gave yourself a year. So I'm sure that the whole music industry, welcomed you with open arms. So was it like that, or
Yeah, right. Yes, they were waiting only for me to arrive. They were waiting only for my arrival. So on this note, I have to tell you, I just did a campaign for International Women's Day where they're talking about discrimination, and it's reminding me of this. So once this corporate sent out this email saying they wanted a woman singer a woman who played the guitar and sang. So my manager quickly sent out my bio, and guess what they said? We asked for a woman. Okay, so I'm not even a woman. because I'm an older person, I don't even fall into the category of a woman anymore. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So
For
you
them,
know
you're
how much.
right. For them, you're beyond that now. I mean, it's so, I mean, primitive about them to do so. I mean, that's really wrong.
Exactly. So yeah, that's how much they were waiting for me.
But yeah, I mean, no, not to judge the, the warmth of the industry by some corporate fools. I mean, I'm generally asking, like, are there people that you knew all these years before sort of stopped doing music?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry.
Right. No, what I'm asking is that uh, I'm sure that you knew people before when you started out, like around in the 80s or 90s, and then were there people that you reconnected with after you came back to music in 2010, like who are already in the industry and doing well for themselves? Was it something of that sort, or were you like, I'm going to do my own thing and continue? Was there something of
Uh,
that sort?
a lot of my friends were actually, I have very few friends in the music business.
Right.
Most of I know people because they've
Uh,
seen me coming and going and disappearing and coming and going, so they know of me.
right.
But I hadn't really worked with any of them. So, like, I'm starting my career when they are in the, at the peak of their career. So I'm just starting out. So there was no collaboration there. So I was collaborating with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and people like that because that's where I was starting, right? So it's not like I came in there. Having said that, yeah, I knew a few people, and also I'm generally a very, or I used to be a very talkative person. So I knew a lot of people in the city. And so, having been in the art business, I knew a lot of people. Having been married to a businessman, I knew a lot of people. So, for me to navigate and make my way through a lot of things wasn't that difficult. And I'm good with
True.
reaching out to people. So, that was not a problem. But, and then, of course, I had a really good manager. So she lives in Pune now, and I miss her immensely. And I hope she listens to this. And Neeti, I want you back. But so yeah, yeah. So she's an incredible manager. So we went to a lot of places. We did a lot of festivals, and we had a lot of fun. Yeah, no, I have no complaints about that. No, and
Right.
even today, I think there are people who know me, and I think they respect the work I'm doing. Yeah.
True. True. Like you said that, so yeah, which brings me to my next question. You said that you've been to a lot of places and done a lot of tours. I'm sure that all across your career you've done that. So what I want to touch down upon is the touring aspect of things, because I feel that that's a very 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 crucial aspect to somebody who, I mean, of course, like you have your own, like they say, like a musician has a studio time and musician has a touring sort of schedule for themselves. So how has that been? Are you do you so like my question is going to be in parts. Do you prefer touring more, or do you prefer working on your music in solitude or by yourself, or do you think that you eventually make it so that people can hear it and you prefer presenting it in a live form? What is it like for you? And then I would want to touch on other parts of the question.
For me, there's nothing like live music. So when I'm singing and I'm playing and I have a crowd in front of me, I think that's optimal. Having said that, I think also what happens is when you're traveling all the time,
Right.
it kind of you're on some kind of a high. You're just moving from okay, abhi idhar gaye, abhi udhar gaye. But so the lockdown in that sense has brought me into a more introspective space, and I have really enjoyed working hard at my craft and really going, the whole 10,000 repetition
Art.
kind of thing, hours over one thing. So that also has its own place, and I think both are equally important. So, but yeah, I think when I am singing to someone and they are feeling or hearing what I'm saying without, when they are sensing where I'm coming from, and there is that connect, I think it's one of the most beautiful things.
Right, right. Absolutely. That's I can I can see where you're coming from, because you've spoken to a lot of musicians also, and I can understand what you're talking about. Great. So also what I want to ask you about, which is like the further part of the question, is that I mean, uh, because you've toured for a while, I'm sure that you've been to a lot of places. I'm sure you've been to a lot of places a lot of times also. I mean, you might have done multiple shows at different parts of your life with them. So what kind of crowds do you like playing to? What kind of venues do you like performing? Is it like bigger venues, or is it like the more compact or intimate it is, you prefer it? And what is your favorite venue in terms of its scalability? Because you can't really oppose like an auditorium show with like a house gig or something like that. I don't know whether you've done any house gigs because
I
it's
have.
relatively oh great, right, because it's relatively a new trend now which is picking up.
Yeah.
So right. Right. So I mean that's what my question is to you is that
I think each has its own high in a sense.
right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but for me, and especially the kind of music I'm doing today, um, I think where people come to listen to the music and be with you and be a part of that process and are not there to be seen by other people. And, I went to so and so's concert, did you go? And so then it's more about the focus is more about the drinks and the cocktails and all of that. So yeah, for me, it's if it's you're there for the music. So I think that's the greatest joy. And that I think while we had a huge audience in Shillong, it was a huge audience, but they were so there, you know, and and they're as good as a house concert in that sense. So yeah, and here you go, you perform at Blue Frog. I mean, everybody was there, but they were not there. So it's that kind of a thing.
True. That's what I was trying to actually get to because I've also noticed that the bigger the venue gets, the more people are not mentally present there. I feel that it just people just deviate. It's just always like certain small sections of even within that crowd who might really be dedicatedly listening to you. So
Yeah.
I can get where you're coming from, right? So yeah. So have you like I even brought up house gigs? Do you like prefer house gigs or do you think that I mean I think probably as to how you see audiences and you want people to be there. I think the attention span of the people within a house gig is a lot more because all their attention is towards you and they are listening.
Plus I think they know that they are being watched. That's also there. I feel that is there. You know that the artist is able to see you, so you need to at least be there to respect the artist.
There's mutual gratification, I think, out there. Yeah.
But yeah, why would you be at a house gig if you didn't want to be there?
Exactly.
I mean, you're not going to be there to be seen, right? I mean, there's nobody seeing you there in that sense.
True.
So yeah.
Right. So, are there any new artists that you sort of discovered of lately that you really like? Do you think that you would want to put your money on them, like as in like figuratively, as in like, do you think that there's a lot of like you have the Pratik Kuhards and like the Ankur Tiwari. Ankur Tiwari is relatively old in the scene, but I'm sure they're not only limiting to singer-songwriters. Are there any new sort of artists that you sort of
some young artist?
could be anybody, yeah.
You should have prepared me for this question because my mind is like a sieve. I don't remember names very easily.
That's fine.
No, there are, and I kind of follow them then on Spotify. But do they have to be Bombay based or I mean India based?
No, anyone. No restrictions on that. Even probably if you want to name people who are like currently active, that's also that's what we are looking for.
Yeah.
Not even like the youngest of the lot. Yeah.
There's someone whose work I really like. Can I refer to my Spotify list?
Oh yes.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to keep this in the episode. We're going to cut it.
Yeah, you can keep it. I liked Heather Nova. Yes. Have you heard of Heather Nova?
I've heard the name. I might have not.
Okay, so check her out. So she's my current favorite.
Great. What kind of music does she do?
Again, I think it's singer-songwriter material, and she's done a couple of cover songs. I really like her stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's great.
So,
That's great. Right.
I really don't remember names very well. Sorry.
That's absolutely fine. So also, so that brings us to my last question to you. Then, Parth, the other question is that I mean, why I asked you about the scene because I think it also has sort of like a connection to what you do is that you've learned Ableton and you are moving forward with things. And the fact that you are so open to doing a podcast and all these things is that you're not conforming to the practices of industry standards that could have applied 5 or 10 years back, which is a very positive trait I feel because you say that you're a learning junkie as well. So where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself producing more music? Do you see yourself doing more online gigs? Are you a fan of online gigs? I wanted to really ask you this question. Do you like them?
No, I'm not actually. I'm not. I'm not a fan of online gigs purely because I haven't mastered technology enough to make my sound. Because I don't know. I have done it once. And I really didn't like the way the levels were sounding and all of that. So that kind of really bothers me. So if I were to master that technology, then perhaps I wouldn't mind. But that's where my reservation comes from. Also, I don't feel it. I think that live gig and that whole, it's like, how can you give a virtual hug and a hug? There's a huge difference.
True.
So it's like that. So music touches, it really touches. And there's this whole damn technology in between. So no, it doesn't do it for me.
Right.
No, I think I'm totally unsure who has mastered it till now. I mean, live, especially the live online gigs, I don't know who has yet been able to master it. Or I don't see any artist enjoying that because of
Yeah,
the reason. Because it doesn't,
yeah,
it doesn't feel
yeah.
right. If I must
The
say.
closest I came to it was I recently, actually tonight I'm going to do that, is I just played a tanpura and I sang something, so because that's a very minimal thing, but I kind of heard it and I still didn't like the sound of the way the tanpura was sounding on it, because there's, that tanpura is coming out of a speaker, then it's going into this speaker. So it was, something's not right. So yeah, I'm not happy with it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. No, I get it because of So so also we came to a different part of the question, but yeah, I was asking what I wanted to really ask you is that how do you see yourself moving forward? Do you see yourself producing more music eventually when things will open up? Do you see yourself doing more gigs comparatively to how you did previously in your career? How do you look at things now with a fresher perspective post like the whole COVID era and all of that?
I am old enough now to know that all my plans can go to hell. So yeah, my plans are of no consequence at that level. So as we all know, I mean, the COVID has taught us that in no uncertain terms. So at this point, there is a lot of material that I am waiting to produce. I've got like a list of things I need to do. But yeah, the soonest I can take the show on the road, I would be happy to, without compromising either myself or my bandmates' health or my audience's health. So yes, I would like to do that, but honestly, I don't see that happening for another couple of months at least.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
So in the meantime, I think also at this point of my life, I'm in a good space. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying, I've spent a lot of time doing yoga. And so, yeah, I'm kind of happy. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That's
Yeah.
a very, I think that's very honest. So, Parth, do you have any questions for Mr.
Yes, 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 yes. I was waiting for all of this to end so that I can have this. So,
He's going to go back to my bio.
well, it's kind of that. It's kind of that, and also I would like to go back to the when we were talking in the starting of the podcast when you were mentioning that you are a learning junkie, and you almost touched upon this that you said that I also took some lessons for Sanskrit. So what I wanted to really ask was, so you when you started writing songs, you recorded all your songs, performed, and uh, basically wrote more of the English songs, right? The first album that you were mentioning was also an English compilation of songs. Uh, and now, if you look at it, you have three albums. If I'm not wrong, you have
Yeah.
the first in 1993, Dancing Free, then another one in 2010, then one in 2016. All these three were English EPs, right? English albums and EPs.
Yeah.
How did Songs of Grace happen? Because it's all, it falls in kind of a mixed genre of uh, music, but again, you were writing English songs and then all of a sudden Songs of Grace, which is like Sanskrit songs. How did that happen?
So, as I was working on in 2010, when I made the album, Hope, Faith, Time and Me, it included one Sanskrit shlok called Atma Shatakam. In 2016, when I made the EP, it was called It's About Time. There I had another Shiv shlok called Kal Bhairavashtakam, which was Shiva's aspect of the time aspect of Shiva. So somehow organically, these two happened. I never intended for it to happen, but somehow they did. And that kind of started me on a journey. And somewhere there was a shift in me also. And I have learned a lot of Sanskrit shloks and Gita and Kabir and Meera bhajans from Parshottam Jalota ji, who is Anup Jalota's father. So I had learned that in my 20s and 30s.
Oh, okay.
And when I was at that age. Then when I was a young child, my parents were a part of the Chinmaya mission. And so I was sent to the Bal Vihar every Saturday. And so a lot of arti, bhajans, all of that used to happen as a child. Then I grew up into this trendy Cuff Parade teenager who didn't want to have anything to do with that. She just wanted to play a guitar and sing in English.
Right.
Then somehow over time, your roots kind of catch up with you. And also your personal search, as you, at least for me, I think my life changed dramatically before and after I got divorced. So before, when I was married, it was one kind of lifestyle. Then now I was divorced and there was a different kind of lifestyle. And I actually went back to being who I wanted to be. Because I think during those 25 years of marriage, while they were all fine and everything, I had to reinvent myself and become somebody I think I was truly not. So when I started on this journey back to myself, this came along with it. And so my need to voice all my stories and all my angst was slowly reducing, and my need to connect with who I really was, I hope, started kind of going in that direction. However, having said that, I'm not a religious person. I think of it more as spirituality and philosophy. And so I started, and I've traveled a fair amount in my life, met a lot of people, have interacted with people in different walks of life, whether it's economic strata or the kinds of work that they have done. So it's been from art to business to all kinds of things. So I have had a rich life in that sense. And so there have been various exposures. So I've been exposed to Jain people, Sikh people, all of that, realized that a good person is a good person. So it doesn't matter where you are coming from, which philosophy you are following, which spiritual practice or religious practice for that matter. So I started, which is at which point I stopped performing altogether. That's when I learned how to use Ableton, and I went back into research mode. And I said, okay, so the Songs of Grace is basically, I'm going to cut that story short and say Songs of Grace is basically a collection of hymns, mantras, shloks that are coming from the different spiritual and philosophical practices that I have been exposed to some extent. There are many more in the world. I haven't been exposed to them. As and when I get exposed to them, I would love to learn more stuff. But as I was reading this material and was reading the translations, they said exactly the same thing. So it didn't matter whether it was a Jain mantra or a Buddhist mantra or a Jewish hymn. It was all the same. So that's the body of work I want to put together. And because the work is so beautiful and the songs are so beautiful and the subject is so beautiful, I think that is consuming me. And the rest of it then doesn't matter.
Wonderful, wonderful. So on that very note, we'll call it a podcast. So nice talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
We learned so much from you, and we really pray and hope.
As I did from you guys.
Thank you so much. No, I don't think it's as much.
Even same.
Yeah. But it's been such a pleasure, such a wonderful experience talking to you and knowing more about the story to who you are. And I hope that you just continue doing and keep putting forward the stories that you want to via music. And we hope to see a lot of more music from you. And thank you so much for joining. People who've made it to this point of the podcast, please go and follow Geetu Unplugged ma'am on Instagram. And
it's Geetu Unplugged. The stage name is Geetu Unplugged. Yes. So all the social media handles are under Geetu Unplugged.
Yes. Perfect. Is there any place we can find your music, like apart, like on Spotify or something?
It's there on all the various Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, Yevo, the usual thingamajiggy, and YouTube and Instagram and wherever, everywhere.
Great. So guys, please go and follow Geetu ma'am, and we're really looking forward to seeing whatever you do. And thank you so much for joining us. Guys who made it to this point, please follow podcast. We put out a podcast every Friday, hopefully, and we are there on Instagram as well. We're there on Spotify. We are there also there on other audio streaming platforms. You can check out the audio version of our podcast out there. Thank you so much for joining. This is me, Bharat, and my co-host, Mr. Parth. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Goodbye. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Parth.
Thank you so much.